Just as the blood-raving demon gets ready to leave, our hero stands tall, like a character from a level-up manhwa, declaring he's the heir of Glenn, the destructive king of the north, the swordsman fated to be the strongest on the continent. With fierce resolve, he swears that as long as his heart beats, that demon will not leave this place. The demon, surprised by his spirit, acknowledges Rayon's guts and promises to remember his name. As he gets ready to attack, our hero admits to himself he has zero strength left to dodge. He closes his eyes, and, suddenly, a powerful gust of wind stops the attack cold. Rimmer appears, blocking the monster's strike. Rayon can't help but crack a joke that Rimmer is late. Rimmer apologizes for oversleeping and tells our boy, "You can leave the rest to me now." The demons instantly recognize Rimmer as Ziggart's Sword of Light. Rimmer greets them, saying it's been a while. The blood-raving demon demands to know why he's here. Rimmer replies, he can't let garbage like the demon trample all over their new sprouts. The demon scoffs, saying sending a guy like Rimmer on a trainee mission just proves how soft Ziggart has gotten. Their battle begins. The demon notes that even now, Rimmer struggles to deflect a punch like this, even when his balance is off. He wonders if the rumors are true that Rimmer is crippled and his energy core is shattered. Rimmer waves it off as baseless gossip, telling him to find a better source, and jokes that demons are always behind the times. He points out he retired from the front lines ages ago, so he has no idea why those rumors are still around. The demon calls him a liar, saying Rimmer's sword used to have this huge killing intent, but now it just feels like a soft breeze, a blade way too weak to even cut him down. The two clash fiercely, with Rimmer giving the demon a hard time and calling him a barbarian. Meanwhile, our hero watches from a distance, seeing how Instructor Rimmer flows between attack and defense. As graceful as a leaf on the wind, Rayon sees Rimmer's surprise attacks are flawless, and he's even using astral energy. He's wondering why Rimmer is dragging this fight out. This could have ended already. Our hero suspects Rimmer is showing off his swordsmanship, even in a moment this serious. If that's the case, he thinks Rimmer's totally lost it. During the clash, Rimmer taunts the demon, asking why he can't win even when he's weakened. He warns that at this rate he'll lose his helmet. This pisses off the demon, who tells him to stop messing around and fight for real. Rimmer notes it's getting hard to hold back and decides to wrap it up. His teaching material is getting unruly. He calls out to Rayon, telling him to watch closely. This is the Ziggart way, the realm our boy must reach. A true level-up manhwa goal. First, swordfield creation, then the Eye of the Storm. The demon wonders if the storm around Rimmer is his swordfield, noting his overwhelming aura is sealing any escape. Resolved, the demon decides the only way out is a direct clash. He leaps forward, yelling for Rimmer to be crushed, and Rimmer meets him mid-air. They close in, but Rimmer is way faster. Their attacks collide, creating a huge cloud of smoke seen from far away. Once the dust settles, the demon admits Rimmer harnessed the force of their bodies and auras, channeling all the calm wind into his sword, a perfect example of a swordfield. Still, the demon's curious how Rimmer, not being from Ziggart's direct line, managed it. Rimmer clarifies it's not exactly a swordfield. He mimicked one using nature's power due to his elven affinity. The demon admits that even old and sick, a tiger is still a tiger. Turning away, he regrets that he couldn't take out Rayon, saying he should have eliminated him no matter the cost, as this failure will seriously impact their mission. Rimmer warns him that's enough. He won't let a creep like him touch their young king. The demon admits Rayon has kingly qualities, but warns Rimmer not to get cocky. Eden has talent matching Rayon's, at least for now. Conceding defeat to Ziggart's Sword of Light, the demon finally collapses from Rimmer's decisive strike. Rimmer sheathes his sword and looks at Rayon, asking if he saw that. This is what he must learn as a Ziggart. It's a sword field, different from the boundaries mages make with mana. A sword field is formed by spiritual growth and an aura burst, built from every experience, achievement, and even your future. Since our boy is a direct descendant, Rimmer says he'll create one someday, telling him to get more lessons and experience until then. He wonders aloud if Runan, Martha, and Burr also saw the fight. The three friends rush to Rayon, relieved he's safe. Martha is clearly relieved, while Burr expresses his joy that their buddy is alive. Watching them, Rimmer reflects on how hard it is to pretend you're okay. For those not of Ziggart, blood, using a sword field takes not just experience, but immense talent and vitality, so much that it drains their very lifespan. With his energy center broken, using a sword field causes Rimmer incredible pain, but he has no regrets. What Rimmer saw from our hero when he arrived late convinced him a new king was born. In that moment, he chose to serve Rayon as his new lord. Ever since his own crippling injury, Rimmer felt like he was living without a purpose. Yet, these young swordsmen gave him a new reason to live. That's why he doesn't regret spending his remaining life. Of course, before his time is up, Rimmer hopes to see Rayon Ziggart rise as the next Ziggart king. Meanwhile, in the royal palace, Rayon's grandfather, Lord Glenn, is confirming if our boy really faced the blood-crazed demon from Eden. Rimmer admits he expected Glenn's surprise and even rushed over to see his reaction, saying it was totally worth it. Glenn, still stunned, tells him to get to the point. Rimmer explains that while it's hard to believe, even for him, he saw it all himself and swears it's true. And it wasn't just him, but also every trainee from the 5th and 6th grounds, plus the Cebu villagers, saw Rayon face the blood-raving demon solo. Glenn mused aloud that a demon like that is a match for a swordmaster. If Rimmer's story held up, what was the price? Rimmer replied that most just had minor injuries, but Rayon got seriously messed up, yet somehow survived until Rimmer arrived. Glenn asked if Rimmer really expected him to buy that story. Rimmer admitted it sounded wild, but insisted Glenn would see once he witnessed Rayon's new sword expert skills. He added that Rayon held his ground against a master-level demon, so using the elven sap on him was absolutely worth it. A startled Lord Glenn noted that the sap of the Second World Tree is priceless, but Rimmer pushed that Rayon earned it with that feat. Glenn mused that it sounded an awful lot like favoritism. Rimmer sighed, explaining he just wants to help Rayon and the others grow. Glenn nodded, then told Lowen to summon the division leaders for a meeting when the trainees returned. Lowen promptly acknowledged the command. Out of nowhere, Glenn actually complimented Rimmer's work. Rimmer beamed, stepping closer, thinking it had been maybe 20 years since he'd heard that from him. Glenn cut that short, warning Rimmer not to get ahead of himself. He'd get more compliments if he wasn't always pulling reckless stunts. Glenn then asked when the trainees were expected. Rimmer said their arrival was imminent, outside Ziggart Palace. Rayon noted the Cebu village mission was a success. Though Eden's meddling caused some major damage, they stayed longer to help the village rebuild, and since our hero was badly hurt, he crashed at the chief's house. First thing he did after waking, checked his winnings from the bet with Wrath. Wrath tried to call it off, complaining that since Rimmer offed the demon, not Rayon, the bet was void. Still, the stats from the win were sweet. Wrath fumed, especially over the iron will trait Rayon got. The system, like in some level-up Manhwa, said it gives the user what they need most. Much to Wrath's chagrin, he grumbled that without iron will, he could have hijacked Rayon's body already. Wrath muttered that the kid should calm down. After all, he had plenty of time. His powers were returning faster, and he'd already planted the seed of Wrath inside Rayon. Wrath figured that while the kid was growing fast for a human, he would win. Rayon's body and soul would be his. And the second he wins, Rayon will be stuck under a glacier forever. Now, at the palace, the trainees lined up as Commander Elun addressed them, welcoming them home. Dorian mumbled about finally getting some rest. Runan wanted ice cream, while Martha thought she was a goner. Byrne remarked that at least they made it back alive. The commander acknowledged their fatigue, but told them there was one last thing. He led them to the Lord's Manor, where the trainees knelt before Lord Glenn to give their greetings. Whispers went around the hall wondering if the rumors were true, that Rayon Ziggart survived those demons. He still only looked like an advanced sword user. As he bowed, Rayon thought that while being summoned was nerve-wracking, it was a golden opportunity. All the top brass were present. Our hero knew he learned a lot from this mission. If this kept up, his future fights would only get harder. So, he had to get even stronger. With all the leaders and masters here, Glenn Ziggart was clearly taking this seriously, like a major level-up Manhwa plot point, since Glenn draws a hard line between public and private matters, and always rewards results. This was the perfect time to prove themselves and get new martial arts. Lord Glenn then singled out Rayon, noting he heard he was the key player, and he demanded a full report. Rayon obliged, starting with the weird feeling he got upon arriving in Cebu, leading to him ambushing the Green War Demon while looking for a magic stone. He explained how after that initial battle, the blood-crazed demon attacked and he offered to be bait to protect the other trainees. Suddenly, Karun cut in, yelling that Rayon was a liar, asking if Glenn could seriously believe such a wild story, since a Green War Demon alone would have flattened those kids, let alone the blood-raving demon. Right on cue, our hero signals Dorian to bring out the proof. Dorian dramatically presents the helmets of both demons right before Lord Glenn. A wave of shock hits the court as they realize the report is real. Rayon then requests permission from Glenn to draw his sword, which is granted. Drawing his blade, flames surge around it, stunning the court with a genuine aura blade and powerful flame. Some whisper, remembering just 10 years ago, Rayon's mana was barely average. Now, it's no wonder he could defeat the Green War Demon. Rayon then turns to the rude royal and pointedly asks if this is proof enough. The royal, angry and jealous, has no choice but to concede that Rayon reached the expert realm and brought proof of his victories. Lord Glenn then addresses the group, praising Rayon and the top trainees from the 5th and 6th training grounds for their excellent performance. Later, Rayon reflects that Glenn's unexpected compliment left not only the group, but the entire manor completely stunned. The best praise Glenn had ever offered before was, "Good job," no matter the difficulty. For the first time in decades, he used the word excellent. Some trainees even wiped away tears, holding their breath at the rare acknowledgement. Afterward, Rayon finished his report, presenting the Goblin King's magic stone, and detailed Eden's true goal. In the end, all other trainees received bronze tablets, while a silver tablet was bestowed upon our warrior before the ceremony concluded. As he leaves the Lord's court, Rayon wonders if he'd set his expectations too high. He had hoped for a special reward for exposing Eden's objective, but it seems that level-up Manhwa dream of a new martial art is off the table for now. Suddenly, Wrath appears, complaining that Rayon got nothing despite giving Glenn crucial intel. Wrath grumbles that he'd started to trust Glenn a little after getting the 10,000 Flames cultivation, but clearly shouldn't have. As Rayon heads out, Lowen approaches, asking for a word. Rayon is puzzled by the sudden request, but Lowen asks if he can come to the annex at midnight. Our boy is curious about the reason. Lowen explains that the head of the house has summoned him. He's about to receive his second reward. As Rayon returns home, Helen informs Lady Sylvia that the young master is back. His mother is ecstatic to see him, and both women greet him at the main entrance. Sylvia mentions she heard he fought against Eden and asks if he is all right. Our boy assures her he's fine and has nearly recovered. She embraces her son and apologizes, admitting she shouldn't have told him to behave like a Ziggart. Sylvia explains her words came from worry, especially since he faced Eden's demons all alone. Rayon reassures his mother, saying he is actually grateful for her advice. He confides that when he confronted the blood-raving demon, he initially wanted to run, feeling completely outmatched, even considering using the other trainees as bait. But then her voice echoed in his mind, urging him to live as a true Ziggart swordsman. That encouragement gave him the strength to stand his ground. He's only a proud swordsman now, a classic level-up Manhwa hero, thanks to her words, and for that, he is truly grateful. Our hero is surprised to find both his mother and Helen in tears. The maid wonders when he grew up so splendidly, prompting Rayon to ask why they are crying. Later that night, he asks Judiel if anything unusual happened during his absence. She tells him the Central Martial Palace has ordered her to return, hinting that they plan to dispose of her. Rayon suspects they want to punish her for not reporting his advancement to sword expert, and to vent their frustration over the audience chamber incident. Deciding he can't let Judiel die, since she's a double agent, he went to great lengths to save. He tells her to follow his orders if she wants to survive. Judiel looks surprised as he advises her to send a letter to the Central Martial Palace, stating she has become Rayon's personal maid because his mother was worried. He explains this will keep the palace from getting suspicious and make them believe it's easier to gather intel through her. He further advises that if she senses suspicion, she should report that Rayon has recovered significantly. But only the head of house and Instructor Rimmer are aware. This should prove she still got value. He tells her to send the letter as soon as possible and play it cool so she doesn't get busted. She's on board. Afterward, Wrath pops up, trashing every single move and questioning why Rayon keeps such a worthless spy. Our hero snaps back that Judiel is far from useless. She's the bait in a trap for Karun. He won't ditch her like he was ditched. With that settled, he's off to his last gig of the day. Later at the royal court, Rayon greets Lord Glenn, saying he's here as requested. Glenn cuts right to the chase, asking what footwork Rayon relied on during his mission. The young swordsman is a bit thrown by the sudden question, then explains he believes mastering footwork can make or break a warrior, so he's stuck with river footwork, the basic stuff for all trainees. Lord Glenn nods, noting that while river footwork is always handy, its simplicity won't cut it against real heavy hitters. Glenn then announces that for uncovering Eden's goal, he'll personally teach Rayon a footwork technique suited for him. A real level-up Manhwa moment. Our hero is floored, wondering if Glenn is serious about a private lesson. Glenn stands, telling Rayon to pay attention, because he's only showing this once. As Glenn moves, flames erupt around his feet and body. Our protagonist is in awe, thinking, so, these are the moves of the continent's top dog, and he realizes this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. The footwork Glenn shows off is wild, totally unlike anything Rayon's seen, both slow and fast, hard and soft, so vast and free. It looked like it could take him anywhere. The demo was short, but it was flawless and hypnotic, impossible to figure out, even with the Ring of Fire. Glenn reveals the technique, the Supreme Harmony Steps. The system pings Rayon that the Ring of Fire has recorded the Supreme Harmony Steps in perfect form, and learning the first step, the Heavenly Advance, will now be accelerated. Glenn asks if Rayon got a good look. Our young swordsman apologizes, admitting he only caught the very first step Glenn showed. Understanding, Lord Glenn wraps things up. As he sits, he reminds Rayon this was the prize for figuring out Eden's plan, and whether he masters it is on him. Rayon asks for permission to leave. Afterward, Lowen mentions to Glenn he's surprised he taught Rayon the Supreme Harmony Steps, worried if the young master can actually handle such a tough martial art. Lord Glenn replies that even with just that quick demo, Rayon still managed to track the Heavenly Advance, which is the foundation and basically half the secret of the Supreme Harmony Steps. He adds that Rayon might not get it yet, but one day, he'll understand and master it. In the garden, our boy thinks about how it's been a few days since Glenn showed him the Supreme Harmony Steps. He's been grinding away with the system's help but hasn't nailed it yet. Wrath butts in, reminding him it's not some technique a wimp can learn. Still, our protagonist feels like he's super close to getting it. As he's practicing, his mom suddenly yells at him to take a break. Rayon wonders if her energy core is busted, since she's nearly as quick as Rimmer. Sylvia, obviously ticked off, reminds him he promised no training until he was totally healed. He tells her to chill out and agrees to stop, thinking she's way scarier than the Demon King. In the end, his training gets shut down by Sylvia's non-stop nagging. She warns him that if she catches him again, he's toast. Even when he tries to train on the sly, Helen and the other maids are watching him like hawks, leaving him no chance to practice. Sitting in the garden, he sees they look like they're having fun, but he admits a break is nice once in a while. Suddenly, a maid runs over, announcing a huge problem. Glenn Ziggart is here. Rayon wonders why, since Raiden is the son of Baldur Ziggart, Glenn's fourth son. He asks why Raiden would show up at the annex, and the maid says they don't know. But Raiden got aggressive with Lady Sylvia and the maids right away. At the annex entrance, Raiden is a total jerk to Lady Sylvia, asking why the garden's a mess with a guest coming, demanding if she really just said she never got the letter about his visit. Sylvia calmly explains that a letter like that never showed up. Raiden, totally offended. He accuses her of calling his butler incompetent or him a liar. She insists that's not what she meant, requesting a moment to tidy up. She quickly gathers her maids to clean the garden themselves. Internally, Raiden fumes, thinking the whole household should be focused on him, especially after he destroyed one of the white blood religion's branches. Yet, no one even acknowledges his achievement. All the attention is on that boy, Rayon. How dare some nobody from a side branch steal his spotlight? Losing it, Raiden yells at Sylvia to hurry up and then spits on her hand. Helen, having seen enough, tells him he's crossed a line, even for a direct descendant. He just mocks her, then slaps her so hard she collapses. Raiden declares that as a mainline member, he is her master and could kill her, his only punishment being confined to his room for 2 days. And still, she dared to challenge him. Suddenly, Judel appears, warning Sylvia to be careful. Deciding she wouldn't let Lady Sylvia be hurt, she steps in. As Raiden raises his foot to kick, Rayon appears, sword in hand. Raiden pauses, recognizing him and thinks it's perfect. He wanted to see our hero anyway. He points at the sword, asking if Rayon plans to use such a scary weapon. He orders him to sheath it, nice and quiet. Raiden introduces himself as Raiden Zart, son of Baldur Ziggart and master of the true martial palace. Ignoring Raiden's fancy title, Rayon, angered, swings for his neck. Out of nowhere, Raiden's servant intercepts with a sword. Raiden curses our boy, but Rayon answers with a powerful punch, sending the servant stumbling back. Raiden demands if he even knows who he's attacking. Our hero retorts, calling him a thug trespassing on his turf. Raiden, shaken, asks what nonsense he's spouting, insisting he's the rightful master. Rayon kicks him hard in the stomach, refuting that claim. Raiden falls to his knees, calling Rayon a bastard and swearing revenge. The young swordsman asserts he is no master, and this annex is not Raiden's home, it's his home, his family's. Just as Rayon is about to end it, Raquel suddenly appears, ordering him to stand down. Our boy realizes Raquel is from the Heavenly Blade Division, a swordsman under the head of the house, and wonders why he's here. Raiden commands the division to eliminate Rayon for daring to attack the direct line. Raquel firmly replies he only follows the head's orders and suggests Raiden leave. Raiden insults him, calling him a mere guard dog, but his butler advises a retreat to avoid escalating things with a Heavenly Blade swordsman. Reluctantly, Raiden agrees to leave, threatening Rayon that he'll pay dearly for this insult with humiliation and pain worse than death. Afterward, Helen apologizes to Sylvia, feeling she didn't do enough. Lady Sylvia reassures her, grateful for her courage and insisting she did nothing wrong. She promises to resolve the matter herself. However, our protagonist steps in, declaring he will handle it and urging them to trust him. Later, Rayon and Raiden are kneeling before Lord Glenn, who tells them to stand. He says he heard about yesterday's incident. Raiden claims he sent a letter to meet Rayon, but received only cold treatment and no welcome. He adds that Rayon attacked him and his butler without reason, and says he could have died. Meanwhile, our protagonist observes Raiden is a better actor than a swordsman. Like a villain from a level-up manhwa, he was completely different from what Judel described. Next, our boy tells Lord Glenn that Raiden's testimony is a total lie. He vividly remembers Raiden's furious red face as he screamed at them. Enraged, Raiden grabs Rayon's collar, cursing him in front of Lord Glenn, who orders him to stop. He reminds him where he is. Lord Glenn, noting the conflicting accounts, decides to call a witness. Raquel appears and greets Lord Glenn, introducing himself as a member of the Heavenly Blade Division. When asked for his account, Raquel reports that he saw no sign the annex received any letter from Raiden. Lady Sylvia was tending the garden with her maids as usual when Raiden arrived unannounced. Our hero is completely surprised, having expected Raquel to take Raiden's side due to loyalty. But instead, the swordsman simply tells the truth. After hearing everything, Lord Glenn reprimands Raiden, questioning the conflicting account and demanding if he dared lie in his presence. Raiden insists the real issue is a collateral attacking the direct line, which threatens the entire house's hierarchy. Lord Glenn agrees it's a huge problem for a collateral to attack a direct descendant, but states both sides are at fault and will be punished accordingly. Raiden protests that a mere punishment isn't enough. Our hero cuts in, accepting any punishment Lord Glenn deems fit, but insists there is one thing he must do first. A curious Lord Glenn asks what it is. Rayon explains that Raiden humiliated his mother and brutalized their maids, yet hasn't paid for these crimes. Lord Glenn repeats that both parties are at fault and have been causing a scene from the start. He asks if they realize where they are. Raiden, feeling Glenn's immense authority, says he can barely breathe. Rayon, however, says that's precisely why he demands justice. He recalls Lord Glenn's words that this is a swordsman's house, so a man's worth should be settled by the sword. He requests permission for a duel. Lord Glenn considers that it might be entertaining, and finally agrees, announcing the duel will be held on the Great Training Ground in 1 week. Raiden stands before his father, Balder, who asks if a duel is really happening. Raiden confirms, explaining Rayon boldly requested it before their grandfather. The terms are simple. If Raiden wins, they will shatter Rayon's energy center. If he loses, he and his butler must apologize to everyone in the annex, and the main family's palace will no longer approach the annex building. Balder remarks that no matter how talented, Rayon is just Sylvia's son by some unknown man. He tells his own son to demonstrate what it means to be from the direct line. Raiden tells his father not to worry, explaining he was unarmed and caught off guard before. Now, Rayon is no match since he's reached the intermediate expert realm. Satisfied, Balder advises him not to get carried away and accidentally kill his opponent, since a death during a formal duel would look bad. Instead, he suggests crippling Rayon by cutting his wrist tendons, destroying all hope. Raiden acknowledges the advice. Meanwhile, in the annex, Lady Sylvia and Helen watch our boy practice his sword skills. Helen, clearly anxious, mentions their young master is set to duel Sir Raiden, and wonders if it's really okay to just let it happen. She adds that Raiden is an intermediate expert, while Rayon is a novice. A crazy mismatch outside of a level-up manhwa. Sylvia admits the duel is dangerous, noting things escalated because he panicked. She also notes Balder's flexible sword style, which Raiden learned, is varied and specializes in exploiting any opening. making him a different beast in battle. Still, Sylvia encourages Helen to have faith. A surprised Helen asks if she truly intends to let this happen. Sylvia confesses she's nervous too, but believes Rayon must have a reason for asking them to trust him. From now on, she decides to believe in her son. As our protagonist practices, Judiel brings lunch, offering sandwiches for convenience and advising him to eat slowly to avoid a stomachache. He thanks her and is surprised to find a book with the food. Realizing it contains intel on the flexible sword style Raiden uses, Rayon marvels at how well it's compiled for easy reading. He wonders how Judiel gathered such intel in one day, and even made it into a book, remembering how she protected his mother and now delivers key intel unprompted. He feels an immense surge of gratitude for her. Time passes as both sides prepare in their own ways. Finally, the day of the sword duel arrives, grabbing the entire house's attention. Both combatants stand on the training ground. Raiden declares he's been waiting for this day and can't wait to crush Rayon after everything that's happened. He threatens to break him so badly he'll never wield a sword again. The referee instructs them to step forward when ready, while Raiden eagerly imagines the look on Rayon's face after the duel. But our hero challenges him back, wondering aloud if Raiden will be awake to see it. The drums pound, signaling the duel's start. Raiden boasts that Rayon's bluffing won't work anymore. He charges in, but then, he's shocked to find Rayon has vanished. In reality, Rayon's right behind him, sword resting on Raiden's shoulder. Stunned, Raiden asks when he even got there. Our protagonist declares Raiden will die 8 times today, then drops his sword and lands a punch so hard it sends Raiden flying across the arena. Raiden starts bleeding, totally unable to process what just happened. Admitting he couldn't even see Rayon's movements, Rayon tells him to get up, repeating his promise of 8 defeats. As he punches, he says, "This one's for the lie about the letter." Raiden scrambles to his feet, cursing and trying to strike back, vowing to make Rayon regret not finishing him. Yet again, he's baffled by Rayon's sudden disappearance. Our boy announces he's on Raiden's left, then smacks him with his sword hilt, calling it the price for spitting on his mother's cherished flower. The next punch is for stomping on that flower, and another heavy blow is delivered for hitting Helen. Lying on the ground, Raiden is in total disbelief. He realizes Rayon's just using star, connecting sword and river footwork, like some novice from a low-tier level-up manhwa. Still, while getting pummeled again, he can't understand why he's losing. Watching from the sidelines, Helen observes that Rayon could have ended the match with that first hit, but instead, he's systematically taking Raiden apart, not just for the sake of winning, but as payback for the violence against them. She thinks about how in this house, where lineage is everything, even maids considered worthless are being avenged by someone fighting the main family. Meanwhile, Lady Sylvia is deeply moved watching her son win. She remembers how her own father always chased power, slowly making the house grow colder, and how she always felt like an outcast despite her bloodline. In the end, she ran away, unable to face reality or her family's cruelty when she should have relied on her own strength. Now, Rayon is showing everyone what it means to endure and fight back no matter what. As the duel continues, our hero slams Raiden to the ground. Sylvia realizes her son is demonstrating the importance of facing hardship rather than running away. The referee finally announces Raiden is down and declares Rayon the winner. As the referee declares Rayon's victory, Balder erupts in anger, shouting at his son, demanding to know what this mess was. In the crowd, Rimmer cheers, yelling to everyone that he predicted our protagonist's win. All of Rayon's friends, Dorian, Martha, Buren, and Runan celebrate his victory. Meanwhile, Lowen remarks to Lord Glenn that in his long years of service, this is the first time he's seen everyone cheer for a collateral relative, completely ignoring his status. Lord Glenn agrees. He admits it's surprising that Rayon's friends are so supportive, but what truly amazed him was the duel itself. Though still inexperienced, Rayon managed to use the Supreme Harmony steps, a footwork Glenn himself created after overcoming his own darkness and reaching transcendence. A martial art so difficult, most could never master it in a lifetime. And yet, Rayon managed to use it in only 2 weeks. Glenn also notes the incredible popularity our boy has gained so young. In the training ground, the crowd chants Rayon's name. Lord Glenn reflects that because he once craved power, strength has always been the highest value in this house, a reality he can't change now that he's old. Still, he wonders if someone born outside the main line, who knows the pain of unfair treatment, our protagonist might someday change this house for the better. Rising to his feet, Glenn declares that since the duel is over, the agreed-upon conditions must be fulfilled. He tells Lowen to get the true Marshall Palace's budget for the year, using any excuse necessary. Lewin just laughs, assuring his lord he understands. Under Glenn's supervision, the duel's terms are carried out. Raiden confesses his wrongdoing in front of everyone, kneeling as he apologizes to Rayon's mother and the maids. The true martial palace is warned not to interfere with the annex again. The maids, finally relaxing, she cried with relief. Overjoyed, the ordeal was over, and they could go home together. Later, Lady Sylvia turns to her son, asking when he got so strong, admitting she was totally surprised. Our hero, embarrassed, tells her not to cling to him so much. Nearby, a ponytailed girl notes that in moments like this, Rayon seems like a normal kid, his vibe completely different from before. Another girl comments that given his skill, maybe Rimmer wasn't exaggerating about Rayon surviving against that blood-raving demon. A man beside them agrees, noting his footwork and swordsmanship were nearly perfect, a true level-up manhwa moment that surpassed mere talent. The ponytailed girl suggests he'd be a great addition to her division, while the man insists he's snagging Rayon for his Black Tiger division after graduation. The ponytailed woman warns him not to get his hopes up. A gray-haired woman points out that the 5th training ground trainees graduate soon, and once they pass their exam, they'll have to pick a division. While Rayon stands out, he isn't the only standout in the 5th training ground. Martha, Byrne, and Runan are all strong enough to rise to the top wherever they go. The upcoming selection ceremony is going to be very interesting. That night in his bedroom, Judiel asks her young master if he planned all that when he requested the sword duel. He admits that, to a degree, he did, and he was confident he would win. Judiel tells him he's a frightening person, but even more so, he is unbelievably kind. Our boy is surprised to hear it. She thanks him again, recalling how he saved her from Sir Karun, and wishes him a good night before leaving. Looking out the window, Rayon thinks that Judiel's expression earlier seemed completely genuine, and from her reaction and how she tried to protect Sylvia, her feelings have to be real. He decides it's probably safe to tell her that the rage he showed earlier was all just an act. Later at the royal palace, Rimmer greets Lord Glenn, flashing the new gold rings on his fingers. Both Glenn and Lowen give him a curious look. Glenn asks where he got all that jewelry. Rimmer boasts that he won it betting against the true martial palace master, all thanks to Rayon. He also managed to score elixirs for everyone in the 5th training ground. Glenn jokingly asks if Rimmer's admitting to shaking down his son. As he sips his tea, Glenn muses that Rimmer's flashy bragging can't be the real reason for his visit, and tells him to get on with it. Rimmer explains that he has a proposal. Glenn is intrigued, noting that he thought all training matters were already left to Rimmer. However, Rimmer clarifies that this isn't about training, but about the graduation exam. Glenn asks for the details, and Rimmer explains the current test is either instructor approval or a trainee spar. But these kids have already faced the Owen Kingdom's knights and survived a deadly mission. They've endured countless trials far beyond what's expected of trainees. That's why he believes the 5th training ground deserves a whole new kind of challenge. Lord Glenn asks what he's proposing. Rimmer suggests a survival exam where trainees must last outside the house with no help or use of the Ziggart name. Even if they aren't full-fledged swordsmen yet, they should aim for a higher level. Glenn considers the idea, remarking that Rimmer himself has changed. Rimmer, surprised, asks what he means. Glenn explains that ever since his energy center was destroyed and he left the front lines, Rimmer had always looked shadowed. But now, after meeting the 5th training ground trainees, he seems passionate again, just like his students. Rimmer, flustered, admits it's a little embarrassing. While Lowen agrees his attitude has improved, Rimmer says he's discovered his talent for teaching, not just swordsmanship, and might even train the next head of the house to succeed Lord Glenn. Glenn asks if he's talking about Rayon, but Rimmer says it could be Byrne, Martha, or Runan. Glenn then orders him to submit a report on the new exam within 1 week, warning that if he fails, he'll pretend this conversation never happened. Rimmer confidently replies that he already has it prepared. All the trainees gather in the great training ground, and one wonders aloud why Rimmer's a no-show after calling them all here. This is nothing new. Instructor Rimmer never shows up on time. Someone jokes he probably spent all night at a gambling den or a pub and just got back. Bam! Rimmer boots the door open, announcing he was late because he stopped by an orphanage. Dorian mutters that if Rimmer's gonna lie, he should at least make it believable. Rimmer insists it's the truth. Anyway, he has a big announcement, one he's mulled over and finally decided on after seeing them today. He declares their graduation exam is about to kick off. They can't stay trainees forever. While the typical exam is getting an instructor's nod or a sparring match, this year will be different. Curious. A trainee asks what he means. Rimmer explains they've already experienced plenty. Fighting Owen's Knights, a real battle with the South-North Union, and even surviving Eden's attack on their last mission. Because of all this, instead of a standard duel or an instructor's approval, they'll be sent out into the world to see how vast it truly is. The topic for their graduation exam is survival. In 1 month, you'll leave your Ziggart trainee status behind and survive across the continent, armed with just a single sword. For those who are scared, there is an alternative test. Meanwhile, Runan asks Rayon if he's taking the challenge, and our boy nods confidently. She declares she'll do it as well. Dorian, intrigued, decides to join in. 2. Reasoning, the instructor must have a good reason. Martha, with her usual confidence, states survival has been her life since birth. Rimmer is surprised they all decided so easily, like characters in a level-up manhwa, and questions if the trainees even know where they'll be sent. He singles out Rayon as the top trainee, knowing the others might just follow his lead without thinking. Our hero calmly acknowledges the journey will be tough, but trusts Rimmer to never give them a challenge they can't handle. Rimmer praises his attitude but warns he won't go easy on him. Then, Rimmer reveals their destinations. Byrne goes to the Levine Desert, Martha to Cyan Canyon, Runan to the Catan Jungle, and Rayon to Haban Castle in the northeast. Immediately, Rayon recalls Haban Castle's nasty reputation. Rimmer explains it's a battlefield where monsters from the Northern Sea and Stalin Mountain attack daily, known as the Hellish Battlefield. There's barely time to sheathe a sword, and everyone will have a hard time. Especially our boy. Rimmer looks at pointedly. With that, he tells them to prepare thoroughly, as they have about 1 month before departure. Later, Rayon is training intensely in the palace garden, watched by his mother and Helen. Helen worries that he's pushing himself too hard, barely sleeping these days. She wishes he'd refuse the test, since Haban Castle is so dangerous. Lady Sylvia agrees, it's risky, but she recognizes the opportunity for growth. Since Haban Castle is his exam site, he must be striving to be in top form. She resolves to support him from behind, letting him focus. While training, our hero reflects on the fatigue setting in after ramping up his training for the past week. Still, he can't shake the feeling that it isn't enough. The monsters at Haban Castle have tough hides and massive frames, making them difficult to cut. Even with a blade, Ziggart's swordsmanship balances attack and defense. But he realizes he'll be at a disadvantage. He can use the 10,000 Flames cultivation techniques, yet they're so powerful their aura drain is risky for long battles. The Ring of Fire has helped him so far, but he knows he can't rely on it forever. With 3 weeks left until departure, our protagonist concludes he needs more info on Haban Castle and a new technique to complement his skills. A real level-up manhwa-style power-up, something offensive to bridge the gap. He decides it's time to invest in himself. Soon after, Rayon stands before Lord Glenn, who asks if he really wants to spend his silver tablets on a new sword technique. Our boy confirms it. Glenn reminds him that it's his choice how to use them, but notes he thought Rayon would use them to restore his mother's status to the direct line. Rayon admits that was the plan once, but after his mission in Cebu Village and the recent duel, he realized his accomplishments were only rewarded with a silver tablet, not gold. He remembered Glenn's earlier words that it would be difficult. Our protagonist understands that only golden tablets will restore Sylvia's status. Instead of collecting silver tablets that won't make a difference, he figures it's smarter to get stronger with what he has now and earn gold tablets later. Glenn agrees that's the right play if he's going to Haven Castle. Then he tosses him a book, saying he can pick another if he doubts the recommendation. The title, Fangs of Insanity, catches Rayon's eye. Our hero is stoked, figuring if Glenn himself picked it, the technique has to be legit. He gratefully accepts, and Glenn wishes him luck in mastering it. As Rayon turns to leave, Glenn stops him with one question. Since he knows what kind of place Haban Castle is, wasn't he scared hearing his exam would be there? Why didn't he back out? Rayon explains that fighting Eden made him realize something huge. Glenn leans in. Our protagonist says surviving that unexpected life or death battle was like a cheat code from a level-up manhwa, giving him a year's worth of growth. He gets it now. To truly become stronger, he must face situations that push him past his limits. Plus, he trusts instructor Rimmer wouldn't give them a test they couldn't beat. Even though it will be a rough journey, he believes he'll be grateful for the whole experience in the end. Glenn offers one final tip. There's more than one way to use a sword technique, so broadening his perspective is key. Rayon thanks him for the wisdom. Suddenly, Rimmer pops up from behind Glenn's chair, declaring this is exactly why he thinks so highly of Rayon. He's thrilled when a student gets his true intentions, something that sets our hero apart from Baran or the sharp-tongued Martha. Glenn ribs Rimmer for being an awful teacher, trash-talking his students behind their backs, and is shocked Rimmer gave Rayon fangs of insanity, a technique worth a golden tablet. Rimmer jokes about Glenn's unending love for his grandson. Glenn complains that Rimmer talks way too much, but Rimmer insists he's actually been quieter lately. Still, he admits fangs of insanity is a vicious technique and worries if Rayon can actually control it. Now that he's handed over the book, his part is done. It's on our boy whether he masters it or not. Rimmer notes that despite his words, Glenn gave Rayon solid advice, which is just a grandfather's love in action. Glenn retorts that, if Rimmer can talk this much, he must be fully recovered from his recent wounds, and gets up to teach him a lesson. Rimmer nervously begs for patience, claiming he's not fully healed, but Glenn is not buying it, and winds up to hit him. Outside the palace, Rayon is startled by the sound of a loud smack. Later, our protagonist sits on his bed, studying the book, wondering if this swordsmanship is actually worth a silver tablet. Fangs of Insanity, as its name suggests, is a top-tier intuition-based sword technique, focused on relentless offense, always aiming to tear into an opponent's throat like the fangs of a beast. It's not something you can learn from theory. True mastery comes only from battle experience. That's why Rayon sparred non-stop with the other trainees, never resting until the day before the graduation exam. He was determined not to quit until he reached a higher level. By the time no one else was able to spar, our boy had begun to grasp the meaning of fangs of insanity just before it was time to go. The night before the exam, after training, Rayon sits in his room as Judiel tends to his wounds, wrapping his bruises. She asks aloud why he has so many more injuries lately, saying he's pushed himself too hard, especially with the graduation exam tomorrow. She notes Lady Sylvia will worry if she finds out how hurt he is. He admits he's been pushing it, explaining that daily sparring was the only way to get a handle on fangs of insanity. She asks if that's why he's counting on her care, and he nods. Before leaving, Rayon has something he needs to tell her. Judiel says she's all ears. He confesses that he was lying when he claimed he'd fed her a rage orm. He wonders if she already knew from her reaction, but she explains that while she wasn't certain, she did have her suspicions. She recalls that at first, she really believed it was a rage orm. Her fear and will to live left no room to doubt him. Yet over time, the warmth of the annex changed her. The young master treated her like a person, never demanded anything, and even figured out a way for her to avoid the central martial palace's suspicion. After seeing him shield Lady Sylvia and the fierce look in his eyes, Judiel began to think his tough act was just a front. Still, she wasn't certain until this moment. Curious, Rayon asked why she was telling him all this. Judiel admitted that watching him had also changed her. He always wore a mask, but lately, she had seen his true emotions. That day, Rayon went on a rampage in the annex. She was honestly prepared to throw herself in front of Sylvia and Helen. Then, seeing the intel on Haboon Castle on his bed, the info she gathered for him, she realized how much she wanted to help. Grateful, our hero thanked her. She then confided in him about her younger brother, how they were separated when sold. And though she doesn't know his whereabouts or what happened to him, she followed the palace's orders hoping to see him again. Tears welled up as she apologized. Rayon shocked her by promising to save her brother. He explained that since Karun is after him, their paths were bound to cross again, and when that happens, he'll do anything to find her sibling, as long as he's alive. Judiel asked if she could pose a question. He nodded. She wondered why he confessed about the rage worm. What if she'd ratted him out to Karun? Our protagonist answered honestly, saying he trusted she wouldn't. She called it a ridiculous answer, but he simply asked what her next move was. Judiel pledged to follow him, asking him to tell her whatever he needed. Rayon entrusted the annex to her care in his absence, assuring her he had faith in her. The night passed, and morning brought the graduation exam. Rimmer gathered everyone and announced their task to survive alone for 1 year and return. If they succeeded, they'd reach new heights. As usual, Rimmer called the top trainee for a few words, though Rayon felt the role never really suited him. Nevertheless, our boy stepped up to address the group. There's a saying that warriors who survive their first battle are hard to kill, and although their first real fight was unexpected, they all made it through. When pushed to the brink, they pulled through together, and that's why they'll keep surviving, getting stronger, and returning with honor for the 5th training ground. He ended with a shout, urging everyone to win, survive, and move out. Rimmer, watching from the back, reflected that he always knew Rayon was no ordinary kid. It wasn't just his skill. Our hero's calm mind, big heart, and insane work ethic set him apart. During their final spar, Rayon had even mastered the fangs of insanity, surprising Rimmer yet again. He'd only agreed to the match because Rayon had already exhausted all the other trainees, and in the end, he was the one who got hurt. The absolute nerve, he thought with a grin, silently. He urged Rayon to come back alive so he could witness a new king's rise. Now, it's time to salute the head instructor. The trainees thanked Rimmer for everything, and he told them to go, grow stronger, and come back. Dorian told Rayon he'd be training hard this year, so Rayon better not disappoint him. Martha echoed the thought. She said she's in his debt, so he'd better not die, or she'd hunt him down herself. Our hero wondered if his friends ever spoke normally. Runan quietly handed him a treat. Beet ice cream. He was surprised by the gesture and asked if she was sure she wanted to give it away. She reassured him, explaining she had plenty and wished him a good journey before heading off. As Rayon finished his goodbyes, he spotted Dorian sitting on the ground. He told Dorian it was time to go, but Dorian complained, asking why he had to tag along to Haben Castle. Our hero explained they had a stop to make first. As he dragged Dorian along, he revealed their destination, the merchant city, Cameloon. He wanted to get some good gear before hitting the battlefield. Right now, in Cameloon's bustling central market, Rayon and his buddy Dorian weave through the crowds, diligently searching for the items he needs. Although there's an abundance of goods all around them, what our boy is looking for remains elusive, leading him to suspect that the real treasures, the kind you find in a level-up manhwa, are only available on the black market. Suddenly, Dorian broke the silence, asking his master what he was after, noting that it clearly wasn't in any of the stores they had passed. He gestured to a storefront and pointed out that they had been walking non-stop, wondering if Rayon was actually going inside. Our protagonist then asks Dorian if he knows about Cameloon's black market, and Dorian just nods. Totally cool. Rayon, getting curious, asks if this is Dorian's first rodeo in the city, and how he even knows about the market. With a slight smirk, Dorian explains that while he may not look it, he was raised in a merchant family and knows the ropes. And just like that, it clicked for Rayon. This explained Dorian's whole deal. He knew there was more to the guy. But a family of merchants? Never guessed that. Since the cat's out of the bag, our hero doesn't bother being subtle anymore. After a beat, Rayon suggests they hit the black market right now. Dorian warns him they can only get in through a secret passage and asks if he knows the way. Luckily, Rayon remembers his instructor, Rimmer, talking about it. That answer was good enough for Dorian, who had no idea there was a casino hidden down in the black market. He figured the instructor would definitely know the path. So, together, they ducked into the hidden entrance, entering Cameloon's huge underground market. Dorian's jaw dropped at the sheer size and weird cleanliness of the place. It was even tidier than the market above. He wonders aloud if they'll find what Rayon's after. Our hero suggests they check the auction catalog to be sure. They grab a bench, and Rayon starts flipping through the listings. It doesn't take long. There it is, the black butterfly. He wasn't surprised to see it was for auction tonight with a starting bid of 10 gold. Dorian, eyeing the price, asks if Rayon plans to buy it. Noting how crazy expensive it is, the young master admits they could blow all their travel money on it, but that's just too risky. He figures they'll need to hit a pawn shop to beef up their funds and tells Dorian to come on. Dorian, curious about their little side quest, is told they're off to the pawn shop. Rayon plans to sell some stuff to get more cash before the auction. An hour later, Dorian asks if Rayon is done, only to find him browsing instead of heading straight for the auction house. Rayon explains he's just checking for anything useful since they have time to kill. With some extra cash now, he still finds nothing worthwhile. He comments that sometimes you find treasures hidden among junk, like in some level up manhwa, just waiting for the right person, deciding there's not much else. He suggests they go to the auction house. As they leave, something catches Rayon's eye, a ring that looks disturbingly familiar. He wonders if it's the ring of Ziggart's first patriarch, recalling the image from a vision he had, learning the 10,000 flames. He never expected to find it here. Approaching the shopkeeper, he asks for the price. The owner, acting impressed by Rayon's eye, claims the ring boosts strength and clears the mind. He asks for 5 gold coins. Dorian, shocked, accuses the shopkeeper of trying to pull a fast one on them. He points out the guy obviously paid silver for it. Annoyed, Dorian argues if the mind clearing was worth 5 gold, it would be in a proper magic shop, not some shabby little stall. He then questions the strength boost, suggesting it's nowhere near as good as an ogre's gauntlet or ring. Besides, the ring's design is plain, it's covered in cracks, and he doubts it's even made of real gold. In fact, Dorian declares nobody would pick it out of the trash. He lays down a new offer, 1 gold coin. The flustered shopkeeper, probably sensing he's been caught, reluctantly agrees. Rayon has to praise Dorian's negotiation skills. Suddenly, Wrath appears. Noting there's a secret to the ring, Wrath also remarks on Dorian's complete change in personality during the haggle. Our hero can't help but think Dorian is a master negotiator. If a bad judge of value, still, it was a productive trip. Just then, a masked young woman with her assistant walks up and asks if Rayon already paid for the ring. He confirms that he has. She then offers 10 times whatever he paid, insisting he sell it to her, claiming she's an adventurer desperate for money. The offer should be tempting. Dorian is startled, and even the shopkeeper gets curious, now wondering if the ring is actually that valuable. Dorian says to sell, and while the offer's tempting, Rayon clocks that this lady knows the ring's real value. She implies it's worth 100 gold coins or more. He politely declines. She jacks the price 20, then 30 times, but he doesn't budge. Even at 50 gold, Rayon refuses, saying he's just not a fan of selling his stuff, no matter the price. The woman's butler warns him to think twice, hinting at big trouble if he crosses her. Coley, our protagonist, replies he's not scared of her status and tells them to get lost. The lady, losing her patience, demands the ring while she's still playing nice. Rayon sees her whole attitude flip, wondering if she's just flexing her privileged background. She threatens him, saying he has no clue how nasty the world is and that stubborn people disappear. Totally unfazed, he tells her he's out if that's all she's got, and just walks away. She snaps at her butler Sitar that they're hitting the auction house next. Sure, Rayon's going, and ready to outbid him on anything he wants. Inside, the auctioneer hypes up a necklace that goes for 70 gold coins, then a silver monostone, and the ring of raging flame. So far, nothing's grabbing Rayon's attention, and he's just waiting for the black butterfly. And then, finally, the auctioneer unveils a rare black butterfly that eats monostones, talking up its beauty and the pain of keeping it alive. Bidding starts at a measly 2 gold coins, shoots to 7, then our boy confidently throws down 13, hoping to scare everyone else off. Out of nowhere, the masked woman bids 50 gold coins. The shocked auctioneer calls it a record breaker and gives her the win. She tells Sitar they're bouncing. She noted Rayon was only eyeing the butterfly, confirming that was his target the whole time. A classic **** level up Manhwa *** objective. She declares they're done here. Dorian, recognizing her, notes she's not even trying to hide her beef with them now. He asks what the plan is, since it might be ages before another butterfly shows up. Rayon tells him not to sweat it and that they need to grab some night ops gear. Dorian's baffled by the random request. Our hero calmly says he's just gonna steal back the butterfly she bought. This leaves Dorian completely floored. See, every top assassin on the continent has a gimmick, speed, smoothness, or sharpness, but in his past life, Glenn Ziggart was the stealthiest of them all. A master of the unique footwork called the shadowless steps. He figured he wouldn't need that skill in this new life, since he was supposed to learn the supreme harmony steps instead. But life had other plans. 10 minutes ago, Dorian had handed over the night ops outfit Rayon asked for. Our hero praises him for finding such a sweet setup so fast and asks if he's got any dirt on the masked lady. Dorian hesitates, making Rayon wonder what's up. Finally, Dorian spills that he heard from the locals. The woman is actually Princess Jana of the Balar Kingdom. She's not just a magic prodigy from childhood, she can also appraise magic items like a pro, which makes her the king's favorite. Given who she is, he says they should bail for now and wait for another chance. Dorian explains she's probably a major VIP on the black market. Our boy, however, figures the auction house is still doing a final appraisal on the item, and unlike some random guest, the princess's new toy hasn't reached her private room yet. This is the perfect time to swipe it, while the black market still technically owns it. Telling Dorian he'll be right back, Rayon zips off, ignoring his buddy's protests. Ducking behind a door, he confirms his hunch. The princess's auction prize is still outside her room. The auctioneer, sitting nearby, is griping about someone blowing 50 gold on a useless decorative butterfly. His buddy, deep in a card game, tells him to chill out and focus on the game. Rayon's eyes lock onto the black butterfly. The staff members are nearby, but they're totally sidetracked. Rayon knows black butterflies are kept in bird cages, since enclosed spaces are a death sentence. Our hero knows exactly what to do. The butterfly loves magic stones for their pure mana, but the second it senses the 10,000 flames mana, which is even purer, it'll make a break for it. Releasing his high-purity mana, Rayon watches the black butterfly bust out of its cage, flutter over, and land right on his hand. And just like that, yoink! A guard finally notices the butterfly is gone, while another, still deep in a card game, takes a minute to catch on. The staff starts scrambling as our protagonist casually strolls off with the prize. Meanwhile, Dorian's sweating bullets, convinced that if the young master gets caught, it'll spark a diplomatic disaster with Balar. His heart is pounding, and he regrets not stopping Rayon. As he's worrying, he suddenly hears Rayon's voice. Startled, Dorian wonders when his master got back. Cool as a cucumber, our hero says he just arrived. Dorian's eyes go wide, realizing he actually succeeded. Rayon confirms it, showing him the pouch with the butterfly, and tells him to head back to their room. On the way, though, they run smack into the masked woman. She stops them, noting what a surprise it is to see Rayon, guessing he must be so frustrated. She insists he can't possibly compete with her at the auction, but she'll offer him the black butterfly for the ring, telling him to think carefully. She warns this is his last chance. Our young master is getting annoyed, wondering if she's deaf, since he already refused. She just laughs, suggesting he doesn't recognize her kindness. Then her tone sharpens, threatening him if he doesn't comply. Just then, the auctioneer rushes in, informing the princess that the black butterfly has vanished. Someone stole it. Our hero smirks, remarking that it looks like she's the one in a jam now. The princess quickly puts two and two together that the thief is probably Rayon, especially with that mocking smile and sarcastic tone traits she recognizes from herself. Though she can't prove it, she is positive he's the culprit, calling him a wicked thief. She demands if he knows who she is. Rayon replies he doesn't need to know. She rips off her mask, introducing herself as Princess Jana of Balar, warning him not to show such disrespect again. She orders her butler to handle him, and the man lunges, unimpressed. Our boy faces them head-on, about to teach them a lesson. Like a true level-up Manhwa hero, he easily overpowers the butler, dropping him to the ground. The princess is stunned, screaming at her butler for losing to someone she considers a nobody. Just then, Greer appears, recognizing Rayon and introducing him as the real-deal sword prodigy of Ziggart. He tells the princess that Ziggart serves the destructive king of the north. Suddenly, it clicks. The king is known for his blonde hair and red eyes, traits Rayon obviously has. Realization hits her, and fear kicks in. Our protagonist turns to her and asks what she just called him. A wicked thief. He warns that he's had enough and wonders if this counts as an official insult from Balar. Rayon gives her one last chance to apologize, suggesting she just blame it on being young and naive. The princess, now terrified, stammers that she didn't know who he was. He cautions her that without an apology, he will officially protest her, treating him like a thief and her repeated provocations. She breaks down, crying and begging for his forgiveness. He accepts her apology, assuring her he won't escalate the matter. As Rayon and Greer leave, Greer warns her to act her station and not shame her kingdom. Afterward, Greer asks if he came at a bad time, but Rayon shakes his head. Grateful for the perfectly timed intervention, Greer tells him not to sweat it with Jana, promising to have a gentle word with her, and our boy thanks him. Greer then asks what brings Rayon to Cameloon. Rayon explains he's on a mission, which piques his curiosity about Ziggart being so far from home. The young master says he's here for his graduation exam and to get equipment. Greer is delighted to hear about the exam and asks what kind of gear Rayon needs. He replies that he needs a new sword, since his current one is, which, while decent, he's used for too long. Greer suggests a shop in the Western Craft District, noting the blacksmith's insane skill, offering a personal intro, though he can't go due to his own mission. Grateful for the tip, Rayon thanks him. Before leaving, Greer says he'll look forward to seeing them after the exam, wishing him luck. Dorian breathes a huge sigh of relief, amazed at how reckless Rayon acted, but so grateful for Greer's help. Our protagonist admits he had a plan, but luck definitely played a part. Dorian asks if they're going to the workshop now, but Rayon says they'll go tomorrow since he has personal business to handle tonight. Later, as night falls, he sits quietly in his room, a black butterfly perched on his hand. Our boy whispers that it's time for it to fulfill its purpose. The black butterfly absorbs mana but can't digest it, while the Teuton flower can't gather mana its whole life. However, When the two are brought together, they break each other's curses. The Teuton flower then absorbs the mana collected by the black butterfly, finally becoming a top-grade elixir that balances both fire and water energies. Rayon figures that knowledge of this has to be extremely rare. After all, he only knows thanks to memories from the 10,000 Flames cultivation. Just then, the system notifies our protagonist. A piece of the frost curse is gone. His energy center and mana circuits are tougher. His energy and willpower have jumped significantly, and all his stats have increased. After he downs the elixir, the system shows his improved status. In the morning, Rayon tells Dorian it's time to go to the workshop. Dorian immediately sees a dramatic change in his master's aura and wonders what happened overnight. He's surprised and a little shocked. At first, Dorian admits he was just curious about Rayon, how he could train so hard when everyone, even those from the direct line, looked down on him as the family's shame. But after getting closer, Dorian realized the young master embodied the Ziggart name more than anyone at the 5th training ground. That's why even though they're scattered now, the members of the 5th training ground chose to follow Rayon. Dorian believes with his master's strength, he might even solve his own family's issues. But that's not the only reason he follows our hero. He gets lost in thought for a second before Rayon snaps him out of it, asking what he's spacing out for. Rayon reminds him they have to leave once they get the sword and tells Dorian to keep up. They've got a long road ahead. Dorian resolves to just focus on getting stronger with Rayon, confident everything will work out as long as he's with him. Finally, he tells Rayon he's coming. As they set off, Rayon says he'll be fixing Dorian's star-connecting sword form until they reach Haboon Castle. Since it needs a lot of work, Dorian isn't so sure that's a good idea. After a while, they arrive at a small workshop and say they're there on Sir Greer's recommendation. The blacksmith asks if they mean Owen, the third prince. Rayon confirms it, explaining he trusted the shop due to Prince Greer's recommendation. The old blacksmith, skeptical at first, is taken aback when he sees Rayon. Though he appears to be just a boy, he's at a level surpassing Greer's. His presence is massive and sharp, like a blade from a level-up Manhwa. The blacksmith notes, Rayon's aura is different from the prince's and wonders aloud if he's a Ziggart. Dorian internally marvels at how the old man knew. Suddenly, Wrath appears and comments that this is what a real blacksmith is. Someone who can gauge a person's background and skill just by looking. Rayon tells Wrath he's being too loud. The old man admits he's met countless swordsmen, but has never run into anyone like Rayon. After apologizing for the late intro, Rayon introduces himself and Dorian follows. The blacksmith then reveals his own name, Kubarad. He jokes he's just an old guy who keeps swinging his hammer because he hasn't kicked the bucket yet. Hearing the name, our boy recalls Kubarad Jatan, the legendary smith of countless masterpieces in Owen and Balor, whose fame stretches across the entire continent. Rayon never figured he'd find him in such a remote workshop. Curious, Kubar asks what brings them here. Rayon explains he needs a solid sword for his trip. The old man wonders if he wants to forge it, but Rayon clarifies he's not even a swordsman yet, and someone else already promised to craft his first sword. Kubarad guesses the smith must be Vulcan. When Rayon confirms, the old man cracks up, knowing Vulcan came out of retirement just for this, and he won't try to poach a swordsman Vulcan's already claimed. Instead, Kubarad says Rayon can pick a temporary blade, and he never does anything halfway, so he's free to choose whatever he likes. Dorian asks if he can also pick one, and the blacksmith, feeling generous, gives him the go-ahead. Both boys thank him and start browsing the workshop. Inside, Rayon is impressed by the weapon's quality. Any one of them would be amazing. Suddenly, a red sword grabs his attention. Meanwhile, Dorian is totally overwhelmed, unsure what to choose. Since they all seem like masterpieces from a level-up manhwa, the old blacksmith agrees, telling him to just pick one. Suddenly, Kubarad feels a strange energy. He turns, sees Rayon holding the red sword, and shouts for him to put it down. That sword is possessed, and its cursed energy could take over anyone who tries to wield it. Dorian isn't so sure it's a big deal, but the old man insists, pointing to its dangerous aura. He's completely shocked, though, to see the blade's energy can't even penetrate Rayon's body. Wrath flips out, calling the sword's energy a pathetic pest for daring to target the King of Essence's vessel, threatening to freeze and shatter it. Rayon tells Wrath to chill, but Wrath protests, insisting Rayon would have been consumed without his protection. Rayon reminds him he isn't Wrath's property and wouldn't be taken over by some blade, even without help. Concerned, Kubarad asks if Rayon is alright. Rayon assures him he's fine but notes this is no ordinary dagger. The old man warns it's a failed creation, a possessed blade, and begins to tell its story. There was a southern village called Siren, where people worshipped a sacred tree named Athel. It was a peaceful place, full of kind, virtuous souls. One day, the white blood cult attacked, cutting down half the villagers and kidnapping the rest, leaving no one behind. Kubarad heard about the tragedy and forged a dagger from Athel's branch to honor the souls of the fallen. But the second the blade was complete, both it and the hilt turned blood red as the villagers' resentment poured into it, corrupting his intent. No one since could handle the blade's cursed energy until now. Holding the dagger, Rayon feels Siren's memories flood into him. Resentment, pain, outrage, and grief. He wonders how the white blood cult could have done this to them. He realizes their story isn't over yet. Rayon vows that while he can't pursue their vengeance himself, if he ever encounters the white blood cult, he'll help the blade find justice. He asks the sword to join him. Kubarad feels the cursed energy fade and wonders if the blade has actually accepted Rayon as its master. Rayon recognizes the sword as a blade forged to appease vengeful souls. He once more invites the weapon on his journey, giving it a name, the Blade of Requiem. Rayon thanks the old blacksmith for the excellent blades, admitting he never expected to get both a regular sword and the Blade of Requiem. The old man tells him not to feel pressured, saying a promising swordsman using his work is the greatest honor for a blacksmith. Rayon says he'll get a warm welcome if he ever visits Ziggart. The old man replies he looks forward to that day and hopes Rayon safely becomes a swordsman. After saying their goodbyes, the boys head out. As they leave, the old blacksmith reflects that he initially just thought Rayon was a talented kid, but the boy managed to tame the cursed blade and even become its master, a feat known as unification with the blade. No, he realizes the kid's potential is far greater than that. Ziggart's name is destined to ring throughout the world once more. During their journey, Dorian notes they've been trudging north for days, Cameloon far behind, and now everything is just pure snow. As the boring scenery becomes familiar, Rayon tells him they've finally arrived. They are before Haben Castle, the site of their graduation exam. The fortress is absolutely immense. Dorian, bothered by a foul stench, pinches his nose. Wrath is ecstatic, declaring that the smell is the air of a battlefield, which energizes the King of Essence. Our hero asks why Wrath is acting so hyped now that they've arrived, pointing out there were no real struggles on the way. Dorian can hardly believe his ears. It got colder and colder as they approached Haben Castle after leaving Cameloon. Yet Rayon demanded constant movement every time he complained. Dorian grumbles that from dawn till dusk, Rayon nitpicked his sword form, except when traveling, and even made him practice alone during night watch. Dorian mutters he didn't get one night of sleep, and questions how Rayon could claim no hardships. Wrath, now annoyed, concedes that for once the dullard is correct. He complains that Rayon should train in moderation as the King of Essence can't get any rest either. Suddenly, the castle gates swing open and Tyrion, the vice commander, appears. He asks if they're the new mercenaries, noting their late arrival and introducing himself as their superior. Tyrion explains that he will be in charge of them from now on. Rayon expresses his eagerness to work together. Tyrion asks about Dorian's condition, and our hero assures him there's no need to worry. This is his default state. Satisfied, Tyrion tells them to follow him. As they enter, Rayon drags Dorian along, telling him to quit complaining and walk on his own, but Dorian just begs to go home. Our protagonist sees the environment inside is even harsher than he heard. The walls show signs of constant ruin and repair, and the people look totally exhausted. The reek of blood and burning bodies has soaked into the very stones. All of it matches Judiel's intel. Rayon marvels that even though she's likely never been here, she uncovered so much information in so little time. As they near the palace, a girl watches them with curiosity, thinking she's never seen them before and wondering if they're sellswords. This is Yua, a branch employee of Frost. An old man calls to Yua, telling her to help him open the shop. The girl is glad to help her grandpa, catching our hero's eye inside. Tyrion announces his entry to the commander and introduces the new mercenaries, who are actually Ziggart trainees. Commander Myland greets them, confirming their identity and introducing himself as the man in charge of Haben Castle. Rayon wonders if the commander already knew their true identities. He recognizes the man as the famous Miland, the giant of the north, who's defended this castle for over 20 years. Wrath notes the commander's gaze is that of a true general, something the King of Essence hasn't witnessed in ages. Rayon is surprised, Wrath feels it, too, thinking only those with decades of experience have such eyes. Meland informs them that only those in the room know their identities and their status will be kept secret. He understands why Rimmer sent them here for experience. However, this isn't some cushy level-up manhwa. There will be no training or lessons. Just endless fighting and bitter cold winds. He warns that if they're looking for comfort, they should leave right now. Dorian, maybe only half joking, asks if he can actually go. Our boy firmly states they came to become stronger and will accept any battlefield or hardship. The commander likes his resolve, saying he'll see how long it lasts. He explains that, from this moment, their rank is ordinary soldier, starting from the very bottom. He then orders his assistant, Charles, to add the two of them to the 3rd scouting party. Charles complies. Mylan tells them to handle all tasks from chores to combat and has Charles show them to their quarters. Rayon says his farewell as Charles leads them away. Tyrion then voices his concerns.